What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Montana Method podcast one more time. As always, your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., author, creator of the Montana Method. Today, have a very special guest for you. I'm very blessed, very honored, very humbled to have this man in my space. He's the person that might have single-handedly set me on the path that I'm on today. The very first audio I ever listened to, any personal development audio that I ever listened to, I didn't even know what personal development was from this gentleman. It literally, it lit a fire under me that has never gone out. It's like, I can't even describe to you how full circle this moment is for me. We're going to get into what he's up to today, his background, everything that's made him qualified to be the person he is today. And then, of course, how we connected and everything. So with great honor and great privilege, please welcome Mr. Patrick Mazer.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. Promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
Well, great to be on here. And Nelson, it's my honor to be a part of your show and help your audience. And I just love the fact that it was personal development that put us together. And what a great path for both of us.
It was such. So I'll tell you a crazy story. I tell her I'm very open. My background in direct sales, it really set me on the path I'm on today. It taught me about becoming a better human being. And the first time I was ever really discouraged in entrepreneurship, and building a business, my mentor at the time handed me an audio, and it was an audio entitled Mindset 3 by Patrick Mazer. And it was the story of digging for gold and the story of David versus Goliath. And let me tell you, man, after listening to that audio, poof, that was like, it got me fired up, and it made me really understand the mindset of a winner and the mindset of what it takes to be a champion to accomplish the goals you want in life. So I'm eternally grateful for you. You are such a source of inspiration for so many people, I'm sure, besides myself. The amount of things you've been able to accomplish and the things, how you present ideas and ways of thinking on stage, it's really inspiring, Pat. It really is.
Well, it means a lot, coming from you, Nelson. And I just love the fact that seeds that we all plant and watch those seeds turn into the mighty oak. In your case, it's just great to know that I've been able to help somebody like yourself before we've ever physically met. And really the power of even this, this type of an opportunity to create a podcast and to know that you're touching and reaching other people that you never might meet, but we're affected by what you do. So loved how you're continuing down that path to bring value to other people.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm experiencing it now. I get DMs all the time from people who are like, man, I started this business because I heard this clip you made, or I started exercising. I started working out after I heard this one thing you said this one day. So it's made me very aware of how much everything you do matters. Even when you don't think it matters, it really does, because you never know who's watching.
Yeah, great insight.
Definitely. So, Pat, first thing I want to get into, give everybody a little bit of your background, where you're from, kind of like how you grew up, how you found entrepreneurship, how you became a business owner, and we'll go from there.
So, grew up in Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere. If you're familiar with Pennsylvania, they had steel, and then steel left. They had coal, and then coal left, and they built trains, and trains left, but the people were still there. So I grew up in sort of a depressed area. You didn't know it was depressed because you grew up there, but looking back and being able to tour as we have and meet other people and go to other places, you're really like, there's a factory town that the factory left and the town's still there. My father and my mother did direct sales. They did Amway. So as a kid, my parents had their side hustle. It was Amway. They didn't make, millions of dollars doing it, but they gave us a mindset growing up of positivity, personal development. And my father ended up working in the pharmaceutical industry for 33 years. And unfortunately, after 33 years, and this is not unnormal in the business community, they asked my father to leave. And so here he was, 33 years, gave him everything he had. He was always that company guy. And Nelson, I'm sure you probably met people like my father that, your whole identity is around a company. Hey, Coca-Cola or whatever that company may be. And then the company leaves you. And now people are like, hey, how's the pharmaceutical or how's this? So, I made a very, line in the sand, if you will, like a Red Sea moment in my life where I said, I'm never going to get a job. So never had a job, went to college because that's what you did, not because I felt, passionate about going to school. And I'm not here to knock education, but it really wasn't the direction, and looking back, that I should have probably went. I should have just saved the 50 grand and then went right into doing businesses. So I washed cars, cut grass, sold t-shirts. So I was selling t-shirts throughout the country. Right now, I'd be killing it with the Love Trump, Hate Trump t-shirts, right? I'd be out on the streets, like literally selling on the streets, Nelson. And a friend's mom told me about what I do now 24 years ago. And I liked the concept simply because it was business ownership, which immediately, checked that box, to mentorship. And that's where, I think you and I have a lot of common ground because my life was radically changed with mentorship. And not necessarily somebody, cradling me and feeding me, but more access to people that could give me concepts and ideas that I had never heard of before and allow for me to have success based on the environment of people that I got exposed to.
Yeah, mentorship has been invaluable in my own life. Like I said, hearing your audios, going to your trainings, one of the other first people that I never met, but had a profound impact on my life, and I say it on the podcast all the time, was Jim Rohn. I mean, don't wish you were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. There needs to be no less challenges, just wish for more wisdom. Like, I'm sure you can agree. The first time you heard those words, you were like, wow, I never thought of it that way, So it's just these profound people who just put these ideas out there that just change lives forever. It's so inspiring. It's what put me on the path I'm on. It. I wanted to be that person. I had been through a lot in life, and I was like, you know what? What would it be like if I put my ideas out there? What would it be like if I mentored some people? What would it be like if one day somebody called me and they were like, man, this book you wrote or this seminar, like what kind of impact could I have? I think it transcends even your life. Like, look at Jim Rohn. He's passed away some time ago, and you see his clips on all kinds of channels on Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. I mean, look at the impact he's having. It's beyond
today. I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. We listen to Jim Rohn on the way to school because he's so elementary that a 5 and a 7-year-old can listen to. Don't be a lazy learner. Bread for your head. It's just amazing. It's so funny you bring that name. And he's my go-to when it comes to self-development. And I was with you where you can have more by becoming more.
Yeah.
And it never even occurred to me. It never even occurred to me that you could have more by just becoming more yourself. I just thought, hey, your dad's a plumber, you're a plumber, right? You know what I mean? Like, your dad was a mason, you were a mason. My dad's an accountant, I'm an accountant. Not thinking that you can be anything by what you put into yourself. So what a transformational moment when you start realizing those concepts that he so eloquently delivers.
100%. And for me, it was just a matter of once I took on that perspective, it was just a matter of taking on bigger challenges. Maybe I wasn't an adequate enough person at the time to conquer that challenge, but one of two things would happen. Either I would quit or I would grow into the person who could beat the challenge. So I think, I don't know if you've ever heard of Don Miller, but Don Miller, he talks about the basic elements of a story. You have a hero, a villain, a wise man, and the victim. Those are the 4 basic elements, right? And basically, the victim, the hero, and the villain, and the wise man are 4 of the same people. They're just basically, they view the world differently, right? So the villain, his view on the world is, the world wronged me, so I'm going to make the world hurt. I'm in pain, so I'm going to make other people hurt. Mm-hmm. The hero says, I was wronged, I'm in pain, I want to make sure no one else has to experience this pain. Mm-hmm. The victim says, I was hurt. I was wrong. Someone come please save me because I can't save myself. And then the wise man said, I've been a hero long enough. It's time for me to train somebody else. It's time
Mm,
for to pass on the baton. It's time to let others shine. So it's incredible how perspective, like, it really determines the quality of your life. You can literally decide to be the hero or the villain of your own story.
that's profound. That's
Very profound.
beautiful. I love that. I love the way you set that up as well, and been able to deliver it in a way that's understandable.
Mm,
You know, sometimes information, especially in a personal development, is so high that the average person can't catch the conversation.
mm.
And you know, we're all trained to do the same thing: never ask a question.
For sure. And that's, speaking of understandable and digestible, that's something I loved about your trainings. You were very, you didn't pretend to be a PhD. You didn't pretend to have this like super, elevated vocabulary. You kind of just talked to the regular guy. And listen, I was you, and I kind of still am you. The only difference is, I decided what I wanted in life, and I grew into the person capable of doing it. You know, it's
Yeah, and you're spot on. And that self development is the only reason I had success alongside of yourself and other
mm,
people. Is the biggest investment is an investment in yourself.
oh,
And unfortunately, I don't believe most people spend adequate time working on the number one project, which is yourself. And
mm,
whether that be what you listen to on the way, as my children, I mean, they know you're in my car. It's personal development. Like that's it. And then I'll literally stop in the middle of in this case, Jim Rohn saying something. And then I'll be like, what did he say? You know, tell me
that's
what you
awesome.
think he means. Tell me what you think he just said, just so they critically think. Because
Mm,
I don't want them just to take the information in. I want them to be able to think about what they said and then be able to repeat it back
right.
so that they understand exactly what he was saying.
Yeah. And man, it only makes me think, like, what if my parents would have shown me Jim Rohn tapes when I was a kid? Like, what kind of
Uh,
life I could have had. So it gets me excited for your kids. They're gonna have a heck of a life, and that's the profound impact that those lessons are it's gonna pay dividends in their life for sure.
No question. And look, I'm with you in the sense that, you know, it's how many people you can help. Like, I think one thing that personal development showed me was the greatest of all is the greatest server of all.
Mm,
You want to make $1 million, help 1 million people. You want to make $1 billion, help 1 billion people.
mm,
Money will come through helping. And I believe that we're very selfish. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how. Maybe that's just something we're all born with. We have
mm,
this selfish, you know, take care of yourself type mentality. And it takes a lot of scrubbing out of your head
mm,
before you realize in order for you to get ahead, you have to help a lot of people. And
100%.
so, you know, the best people I'm sure both of us have met are self made people, right? If they inherited money, they're the worst human beings. Like, I don't know about you, but you meet someone inherited money, it's like, you know, they look down on people.
Mm,
They feel the world owes them something. And then you meet successful people that climb to the top of success. They know what that first rung of success feels like. You know, they know
100%.
what that doubt and fear and worry and inadequacy and scared and, you know, all of the challenges that go with being an entrepreneur. I
Mm,
mean, look, being a self-employed entrepreneur is extremely scary for everyone. I don't know
terrifying.
it's nobody's getting into this and having an easy road. You get to meet yourself. You don't like the person you meet
Mm,
a lot of times because we have this fictitious idea of who we really are until we actually get into meeting ourselves and realize that, look, you know, people want to cut corners. Everybody's looking for a shortcut. You know, the longest way around anywhere is a shortcut. That's
100%.
the longest way is the shortcut. And so, you know, I believe that there's such a beautiful community of people like yourself and others that are just pouring their life story and value and encouraging and hoping that, you know, it falls on ears of people, whatever stage of the path they're on. Because look, you're still on a path. I'm still on a path. I still have people that I look up to that pour into me, as I'm sure you as well.
Mm,
So I believe that personal development never ends. It's
never.
just a complete continuation of refining yourself along the way.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Aikido, the martial art.
Yeah.
So so the founder of Aikido actually made his loved ones bury him in a white belt because he said that he wanted to be buried with a beginner mind. He always wanted to have a beginner's mindset. He never thought he arrived. It was very embedded into him, and he actually embedded it into the martial art when he taught it to other people. You can never say you've arrived, and you can never say you've mastered anything because you always have something to learn. The beginner mind is very important, and that's
lesson.
yeah, and it's helped that has helped me because your mind only works like a parachute, right? It only works when it's open. So whenever I hesitate on an idea I'm hearing or someone like not wanting to give someone else the chance to speak their ideas or talk,
Yeah.
I always tell myself, listen, you've never arrived. You have to be open to learning new things, hear them out, and really digest the information before you say, all right, no, that doesn't work. So the beginner mind, yeah, I mean, some of the most arrogant and like stubborn people I've ever met were mostly broke. And I think it has to do with thinking, oh, I know everything. Oh yeah, I know. No, you really don't know because you'd have the results in your life if you really knew, right?
And even to people that have had what I call the most dangerous success, a little bit is the most dangerous success, because when you have a little bit of success, sometimes that's when the no more coachability comes in.
Yeah.
I understand, I got it. And you've watched people that have had success go back to their original situation because
That's
they
rough.
what they did to get there. And part of that is that, open mind. I look at Blockbuster and Netflix, them laughed them out of the boardroom, hey, best of luck to you. And the student ended up, teaching the teacher in this case. So again, I love that mindset. I like that beginner concept too. And to go into everything with somebody has something to add.
100%.
And I'm here for one good idea. I'll sit in a meeting for an hour knowing it's one idea that somebody might throw out. That is why I'm here. I need that idea, or what they make me think of with what they're saying. Maybe not their specific idea, but now their idea is making me think of something else that I'm taking a note on.
Correct.
And know that's pretty much why I'm here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the familiar voice of your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., taking a quick detour to talk to you about the best jewelry shop on the internet, Gus Villa Jewelry. Let's be honest here, guys. Jewelers in Miami are super shady sometimes. I've even been ripped off once or twice by one of these self-proclaimed alchemists that ended up being these weirdos who sell you a bunch of stuff that make your neck and your fingers turn black. Let me tell you, after I met my boy, Gus Villa, he elevated my bling game. The Gus Villa team, these guys are more than just jewelers. These guys are magicians turning metal and stone into your next head turner. Trust me, these pieces shine so much you can see them from outer space. Head over to GusVillaJewelry.com, and because you're a Monty, that's right, part of the Montana Method crew, you can use the promo code Montana to snatch 5% off your order. You don't just get hooked up with some shine, you get to have some dough in your pocket. Double whammy. So guys, what are you waiting for? Elevate your jewelry game. Show the world what you got. You got some style, you got some bling, you're all blinged up. Come on back after you do that. We've got more Montana Method Madness waiting for you. Now back to the podcast. That's what I always try to capture. Like, maybe what they're saying isn't specifically what I'm going to adopt in my life and what's going to work. However, it can make me, put on the thinking cap and think in a way where I wouldn't have, because I don't think like they do. They have a different way of thinking. So, and as you know, the results in your life come down to how your mind operates, the way you think. So if you're not thinking a certain way, or if you're not thinking differently than you normally do, then you're not going to get different results. The things are going to stay the same. 100%.
Great point.
Definitely. So Pat, something I'd like to touch up on. A person, I'm sure you've read thousands of books. Imagine somebody decides they want to open a business. They find the right opportunity. They open a franchise. They decide to start going to e-commerce. They decide to tack onto an opportunity. They say, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But they don't have the means to do it. What are 3 books you can recommend that you think would really help them and get them kickstarted?
Outside of the Bible, I think that, but again, that's, what I mean, an individual's perspective on things.
Right.
Think and Grow Rich. That's going to be the foundational. That's the really powerful book. When you get a chance to really understand, he's interviewed 500 of the wealthiest, the
Mm,
Henry Ford, the Andrew Carnegie, the Charles Schwab, people that we know today. Even though they've been dead in some cases a very long time, they all had these principles of success that today we still know their name. I
mm,
mean, how many people have died in the last 12 months? We don't know their name. Here's people that have died 100+ years ago that we're now still saying their names today.
mm,
So Napoleon Hill, I believe, is an absolute master at pulling those 13 principles together that we need to have for success. And because it's a book sells you out on ideas. Why do I read books? People go, well, I listen to a lot of stuff. That's great. But a book sells you out on the idea. So that would be number one. Number two is How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, because no matter what business anyone gets in, people drive the business. So you're never going to not need that skill set of dealing with people, whether you're running for the president of the United States or you want to be a good dad. You're dealing with people. And so there's fundamental principles that he teaches that are timeless. I mean, I tell people I need to read chapter 1 every day, which is never argue.
mm.
Never argue. No matter, even if they say, Patrick, your shirt is white, do not argue with them. As crazy as that sounds, because nobody wins in an argument. So you might be right. Hey, it might be a white shirt. You know what? I haven't been to the doctors lately. Maybe I need my eyes checked, right? And one of the biggest lessons I've learned from just absorbing that book specifically is you don't have to agree with what everybody says, but you don't have to comment on it. I don't agree with what you said, so I just, okay, great. Let's not ruin a relationship over the fact that you said something I don't agree with. Great, I don't agree with, but I don't need to tell you what does that have to do with anything we're talking about. And so that in itself is when people go, well, what do I say when this person says that? If you don't agree with what they say, you don't have to comment.
100%.
And the third one is, I believe, is the power of positive thinking.
Mm,
Norman Vincent Peale, who was a pastor that wrote this book and was villainized by every pastor at that time that wrote letters to other church people saying that Norman Vincent Peale is talking crazy talk about being a positive person. And now today you watch Joel Osteen, who's on XM radio, and his entire message is being positive.
mm,
So here's somebody that wrote a book that the entire Christian community villainized for him for writing the book about the power of positive thinking. And then within our lifetime, we watched pastors come along that their entire message has been nothing but positivity. So look, does your attitude matter in life? I believe so. And I think your perspective that you brought up a minute ago, if everything is working for you, even if it doesn't look like it, but your complete mindset is it's working for me. Everything is working for me. And so those are the three fundamental books, and they're old and they've lasted the test of time. And not to take anything away from somebody who wrote a book yesterday, I'm sure there's some great info maybe on technology or some modern type concepts, but there's nothing that beats the basics and the fundamentals. And Jim Rohn, I think, is that basic fundamentals. These, the basics and fundamentals never change. And they're the basic fundamentals. And I don't believe in reading a book. I believe in owning a book,
mm,
meaning that book is part of you. It's not, did you read the book? It's talk to me about chapter 3. Talk to me about the persistence page. Talk to me about faith. Talk to me about auto-suggestion. Talk to me about the book Desire. Talk to me about every little thing about the book. So I believe sometimes we hear, hey, that guy read 1,000 books. That's great. Maybe you and I could put earbuds in and audible 1,000 books every time we went to sleep. But it doesn't mean that we own those books. It just meant that we read those books. So I think there's a difference between owning a book and reading a book.
that's big. I've been I remember when I first started reading books, I'd try to get through them as fast as possible because there's this plethora of information that I want to digest, and life is short and I don't have time. But then I realized that, I couldn't really recall what I learned from these books. And did you really read a book if you can't recall what you learned in the book? Or even worse, if you didn't apply anything you read in that book, right? Because what's the old saying? You don't know, the people who know and don't implement are the same people, are the same as the people that don't know.
That's
So
right.
it's a matter of implementation. That's the only way you see the results in your life. If you're not implementing the things you learn, then you're wasting time. You know,
Especially as you reread the same book and you're in a different place.
100%.
So your first year of business, reread the book. Your second year of business, reread the book. Your third year, and you'll hear completely different messages
Mm.
because your perspective of what he's saying is different. When I got into direct sales, right, the company that I'm with, and I met a guy that was massively successful in the space, and he was like, the hardest thing for you is to find a company that'll pay you for 30 years.
Mm.
And I said, I don't have a team. I haven't sold a product. You're telling me the hardest part of this whole thing is to find a company that'll pay me for 30 years. Because that was his perspective, right? He's been around. He's 40 years in the industry.
Right.
And then after 24 years personally, I was like, he was right. The hardest part is to find a company that will be there long-term to pay you.
100%. Another lesson I'd like to talk about if possible. So tell me, what was one of the first, because this is always different every time I ask the question, but I'm interested to see how it worked out for you. What was the first profound lesson that really made you see a shift in your life? Like, what was the first very profound lesson you try to carry forward today that really, I was like, all right, this gave me some results?
So don't think, do.
What a man.
By the time somebody does it, I've done it 3 times and figured out my mistakes by the second time and did it accurately the third
Mm,
time.
mm.
So I don't text, I call.
I love that.
I don't email, I call.
I love that.
Why? Because I'm going to go up on the priority list, right? Who do you return? You return a text or a phone call.
Mm,
You pick up a phone call or hey, I'm sure you. So what I find is that time between when the idea and I've moved into more of a place in my life that I didn't understand it before, but now I'm that Holy Spirit driven.
mm,
Right? I'm a different person in that. So now I believe that when the Spirit says, "Hey, do this," just do it, and you do it right then, because there's also the law of mistiming.
right.
You waited. Hey, look, you should have called. Hey, why didn't you give me you waited 30 days, because we're playing, the gymnastics in our head
Mm,
of fictitious outcomes that, haven't been created yet, instead of just don't think and do. And so that had been something that served me really well. And what I found is when I thought I didn't do, because our thoughts are primarily negative,
mm,
right? If you think about gravity is a negative pull down, right? So we live in a relatively negative situation. And if you let your brain take on time, it will create negative scenarios. Very few that I've ever met somebody goes, Pat, I've been sitting around for about an hour now thinking about what you said. And I'm thinking about what you said in a super positive. It's like, hey, well, what about this? No one's ever said to me, hey, Patrick, what about if I get so rich, then what am I going to do with all the money? I've never had anyone say that. I've had things say, well, what if this happens, which is negative? What if that is negative? Because what? You're thinking instead of actually doing. And
mm,
so my experience with my success is I will do it before the other person will. And I've done it 3 or 4 times. And I've already been bad before I became good, because you know how we all start anything bad. And it's just the reality of why don't people try things is they don't want to go to the awkwardness of doing something new. Because as a person, you're going to look bad. In the Bible, it says, be like a child. Why? Because children laugh at the fact they look bad. Did you see how silly I was? Did you see me fall? Did you see me not? Whereas an adult, we're horrible. We're embarrassed for other people. It doesn't even happen for us. And we can't even look at somebody else going through an embarrassing moment because we're embarrassed for them. And so take action and not think. I think that's been something that's always served me well.
That's been a fundamental in my life. I'm so glad that I'm not scared of looking bad, and I'm not scared of totally screwing something up,
Yeah,
because that's the best way to learn.
that's
That is
it.
absolute best way to learn. There's nothing compared. Books are great. Talking to somebody else something is great. Watching a YouTube video is great, but there's nothing like doing it. Once you
Yeah.
hop in there and you're doing it and you see how things work for real and it's not secondhand information, the experience of learning is just, my brain fires off and I can really see, oh wait, what if I do it like this, or oh, now I see why it didn't work out because I did that. And for me, that's been a fundamental in my life, and I'm so glad that I just didn't know how to do things and I had to do them in order to figure it out, because
Yeah.
it laid that foundation of, listen, just do it and you'll learn it along the way. Like you will figure it out along the way. Don't ask how things are going to happen. Just take a step forward, do what you can right now and move forward in the process, and then things will come together along the way.
And the longer you wait, the less likely you'll do.
Psh, oh man, you'll think yourself right out of opportunities. Really will.
And we've all had, older relatives and people in our life that I should have. I'm always like, there's still time.
Mm,
Like Colonel Sanders didn't get started until the '60s.
mm.
What are you talking about? You're 50. Who cares? Start now.
100%. I mean, look at Ray Kroc. He was a milkshake salesman when he met
Yeah,
the McDonald's brothers. He was in his mid 50s,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he became who he is today. It's
yeah, for
it's
sure.
never too late. Never too late.
It's absolutely the case.
Definitely. Who is it? Man, I think the joke was you. One time when I was hearing you on stage, and he's like, and you were like, guys, you know what? Now I'm gonna retire, and you kind of crossed your arms, and you.
Yeah, that's
That's.
the next position after retirement. So I'm always like, don't ask for retirement because statistically, I think it's 6 years when you retire that they bury you,
Wow.
and I believe you get moved on to the next world when you quit being curious.
Mm, man, curiosity, right? That's such a.
Right. When you're no longer curious, something that I got from Proctor, Proctor, you know what I'm talking about. I forget his first name,
Bob Proctor.
Bob Proctor, yeah. And Bob Proctor, who's no longer with us, but he was like, I don't hang out with old people. They're old. I hang out with young people. You want to stay young? Hang out with young people, right? Young people got all the ideas. They're full of energy and vigor. He's like, if you hang out with old people, you become old. Hang out with young people, it'll keep you young.
100%. Yeah, I admire that. People who stay young, and I mean retirement. If you think about it, what's the point? Like if you're doing what you're passionate about, if you're around a group of people that inspire you, if you're doing work that matters, you would want to keep doing that to the day you die. You
No
know,
question.
that's something that, to pluck out a page out of Robert Kiyosaki's book. That's like a total employee mindset. You only take vacations when you hate doing what you do. You only hate Mondays when you hate doing,
Yeah.
your job. It's people who enjoy life, people who like what they do. They don't care whether it's Monday or Saturday. It's everything's the same to them. You're working on something you love. You're creating something that's giving you a sense of purpose and a sense of direction in life, which, as you know, when a purpose-driven human being is invincible. So if you hate Mondays, or if you're looking forward to retirement, I think it's a matter of like revisiting what you're spending your time on.
No question. And also, I believe play the long game.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is, look, when I'm done here, I'm going jet skiing. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm still going to do some things tonight and, some meetings that I'm committed up to do, but I'm going to go jet ski. I'm going to go have some fun and do what I enjoy doing.
mm,
So what I find is that it's not work-life balance. It's creating a life that you don't want to retire from.
100%. Yeah.
And we all want to give, and we've all been in situations where we wanted to help people that unfortunately that maybe couldn't help themselves, want to be that encourager or whatever that looks like.
Mm,
So I think also finding a profession or a career where it's centered around helping, that is the only long-term way that you'll get gratification and you also want to continue to do it.
Alrighty, guys, taking a quick break from the podcast to bring you a word from our sponsor, Christian J. DePaz. Appreciate him for coming through. He offers a phenomenal service. Guys, you know I'm a big promoter of entrepreneurship, owning a company, starting a business, doing your own thing, and chasing your own dreams. But as the old saying goes, it takes money to make money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Christian J. DePaz and what he does. He gets funding for new and startup businesses. Christian, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you so much, bro, for the opportunity to come inside your podcast and help more entrepreneurs start their own business or scale their current businesses. So what we do here at Secure Funding is that we'll help you acquire anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 at 0% interest rate business credit, so that you can once again start or scale your current business. So if you come here from our good friend Nelson, there's not only you're coming from the Montana Method podcast, and we'll take extra good care of you. With that being said, brother, thank you so much for bringing us on.
Of course, of course. What are you waiting for, guys? Click the link in the bio. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's this old story of the man. I'm trying to remember where I read it, but one of my favorite authors is Robert Greene. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but 32 Strategies of War, Laws of Human Nature. There's all these books have profoundly changed my life. In the Laws of Human Nature, I'm forgetting the gentleman's name, but there was this Russian gentleman that he actually studied to be a doctor, and then what ended up happening was he was before he ever became a doctor, in his family he was seen as this inadequate, stupid kid, and he was labeled, right, and all these things kind of affected him. But that principle of like playing the long game, he's like, you know what, I may be stupid today, but watch how my life turns out in 30 or 40 years. We'll see who's laughing last, because he always noticed that people, as they got older, they changed. So he said, all right, that's who I might be today, or that's who you might think I am today, but wait until, you know, a little bit of time passes, you'll see where I'm at. And not only did he study to become a doctor, through his example, his whole family was actually inspired. It's a very good chapter in the Laws of Human Nature. I forgot the gentleman's name, but for anybody who hasn't read it, I recommend. What a good book. Through his example, he actually moved his family out of poverty. They lived in this little town in Russia. They moved to Moscow, and like even he, at the end of his life, when he had tuberculosis, the doctor told him, listen, you should stay somewhere warm and you should rest, so that way you can elongate your life. And he was like, no, I'm going to live my life like I choose to live it. And that's like my base principle. I'm going to live life on my terms, not on other people's terms. And it was such an inspiring thing, having a long-term vision, playing the long game. It's so key, right? Because we can be short-sighted as humans. We can have this like very, very narrow vision of what we can accomplish or what's right in front of us. We don't take a step back and look at the whole picture and be like, wow, all right, look at this world of possibilities. And we kind of turn into these horses with those blinders, and we just kind of keep charging forward, you know, not really realizing there's a bigger picture and there's more possibility around us, you know.
And what else I see is we celebrate birth, right? Somebody has a baby, right? Even before the gender revealing part. I mean, think about all this celebration before the baby comes, when the baby shower, baby's here, celebration, baptizement, all, and then we celebrate the end of the life. Oh man, Bob, he was an incredible guy. Man, the best uncle I had, greatest neighbor I've ever met, you know, greatest business partner, greatest employee, but we never stop to celebrate the middle. And what I find is people forget how far they've come because they're so fixated on where they're not as opposed to where they are. Yep. Look at you've overcome. Look at all the anybody. It doesn't matter who that is. We've all overcome a lot. And so I think there's a perspective about celebrating the middle. Like, look at how far you've come. Look at what you've done. Look what you've already accomplished. Imagine where you can be with the right environment and the continuation down that road of working on you, as we started this call specifically talking about. So I think there's a lot to be said there about taking a minute and celebrating along the way, not just the beginning or the end, but where you are.
Enjoying the journey, 100%.
No question. Yeah.
You have to enjoy the journey. I'm remembering now, John Abbas is the guy's name. He he told this story. He made this vision board, and he had this house and this car and where he wanted, you know, his family to live and all this stuff. And he put the vision board away, and time passed, and he even forgot about it. It was like in a storage unit somewhere. 15 or 20 years passed, and he's a very successful man, multi-millionaire. He's built a, you know, massive business. Has a wife, kids. He's basically like living a great life. And he was moving, and he was digging through his stuff, and he found this picture of this house. And he says that when he found the picture, he was paralyzed, almost like he fell to the floor, and he started bawling. It was a picture of the house he was living in.
Yeah.
He ended up subconsciously accomplishing the goal. Why? Because he wasn't paying attention. He was just working, right? He was just doing it. And then when he stopped for a second, and he realized, wow, I'm living the life that I always wanted to live. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it that way. You have to enjoy the journey. You have to enjoy the journey.
And I like what you had mentioned of look, you got to know where you're going. And that's part of the, hey, I want this house. Great. How am I going to get it? That part's irrelevant. The why is the only thing that matters. Hey, why do you want this house? Because I want my family to enjoy a beautiful, okay, great. Now I know what I want. I know why I want it, and let life bring it to you. It's going to bring you everything that you request. You know, there's a Matthew 7:7 says, ask and it will be given. You know, knock and the door shall be open. There's also multiple passages that just corroborate the same thing. Most people don't know what they want. They spend more time planning a vacation than they do their life. If you ask the average American, hey, where'd you go this summer? Oh, it was great. And I went to the beach and I did this and we went out to eat and we had with the kids and a blah. Okay, where are you going to be in 5 years? I don't know. So you don't know where you're going to be in 5 years. You took no time to plan that, but you've taken all this time to plan a 7-day vacation. So if you just took the same amount of planning as this gentleman did and say, look, here's the house I want to live, the car I want to drive, whatever the charity I want to support, it doesn't matter. And what's interesting is everything I put on my dream board, I got. Everything. The house, the car, the watch, the vacation. I even put back in 2008 on my dream board, and I didn't do it intentionally like, hey, I was going to meet him, but just he exemplified, in my opinion at that time, success was Donald Trump. And that was 2000 that I had him on my dream board. And as you know, and in 2012, I'm speaking with them, I'm backstage, I'm photo with them. You know what I mean? So how does that guy on a dream board end up being, a personal relationship? And I don't even know how that happened. Here's what I know. It was on my board. So I think there's so much power in that. When I had nothing, and I'm sure you can relate, the only thing I had was my dream board. If my apartment caught on fire, let it all burn, but just bring that dream board. That's the only, because everything I want is on that board, and the only way I'm going to get what I want is to make sure I'm conscious of what I'm shooting for.
Man, that I say this on my podcast all the time. Sometimes I close with it. Dreams are all we got, If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless. Life has no meaning if it's not for these dreams that we get from somewhere out of this plane. If you want to call it God or the universe, these things come to us, and I feel like they come to us for a purpose, because this is yours. This is your destiny. This is what you're destined for. So if this is my destiny, I have to chase this with all I got. I can't. One foot in, one foot out, lukewarm, I spit you out, right? Like that. I can't do that. I can't do that.
Cold. Yeah, no, you're spot on. And so to build on what you're saying right now, where the confusion comes in is if you want to look great, you got to go from the pain of the gym. How can this pain make me look great? It sounds counterintuitive. It's like, well, how do I have to go through this pain in order for me to have these results? And when being an entrepreneur, the pain that you're going to experience is needed for the inevitability of what you're asking for. Sometimes when we go through the pain, we start to question, hey, people are quitting. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I'm getting doors shut. Yeah, those are all the things that you have to go through on the road to this final destination. So if I told you, hey, we're driving from New York to Florida and there's going to be some mountains and some issues, well, that's part of the journey to get you to where you want to go. Where I think the confusion and why podcasts like yours and books like we mentioned and all the rest is seeing other people's journeys, right? I mean, look, I remember running credit cards up and throwing them out the window of my car. Like I would throw it out there. People are like, you just threw a credit card. Yeah, it's completely useless. There's nothing left on it. If they can get $1 on it, good for them, because there's not another dollar that company's going to give me. And I was so focused on that's not going to matter in 5 years. I'm going to make more in a week than I used to make in a year because I was so brainwashed, right, on my goals and where I was going. It was like I boraxed my brain and said, no, it's inevitable. They told me it's inevitable. Every scripture says it. If you believe, you will receive whatever you pray for. Great. That's, great. Everything's saying the same thing. This is what I want. And so what I think the confusion comes down to is if you knew the path you had to go to get it, you might not want it. Like if you would have told me, Patrick, here's everything you got to go through to get it, I would have probably said, I don't want it. Like if you would have said to me, this is what you like, up close and personal, this is going to be, a vivid explanation that you're going to lose friends, right? You're going to have people that are going to shun you. You're going to have, days that you'll wake up dry heaving in the shower, right? Because you don't even know how you're going to pay the bills that day. You're afraid to go out to eat with somebody. For God forbid they want you to pay for it, right? Like intermittent fasting was just part of being an entrepreneur. I don't think, I just think there's like all these things that if somebody would have told me like, this is all that you're going to go through.
Yep.
Because I didn't experience success or knew how great it was, I might have said no. But now that I've experienced it, that's why people that have done it once and fall back, they can do it again because they know how great it is. If I knew it was this great, I would have paid 10 times the price, to be able to do the things we can do. I mean, look, I and I've been in situations where I've had people that, primarily religious that were like, look, here's my situation and, okay, great. Here's my credit card. Here, like, are you kidding me? Yeah, dude, it's great. Here, you need money, I got money, and the money never stops. And so to be able to do those things for people you love and just, those are things that you can't explain to somebody until they experience it. It's like trying to explain to me what a banana tastes like. And I've never eaten a banana. Well, tell me what's a banana taste like? Tastes like a banana. I've never had one. Describe to me what that is. You can't describe to somebody what it feels like to accomplish success because it's indescribable. You got to experience it yourself. But if you looked at what it's going to take to get there, you might not do it. So thankfully, the road you're on, nobody's going to tell you all the things you got to go through to get there. But you want to plug into people like you and others that'll just keep you encouraged, as Ed Bylett said, one more time, right? Just one. I don't know if I'm going to drink today, but, I'm going to drink tomorrow, but I won't drink today. Well, great. Get through today and let's go ahead and, have the same conversation tomorrow. So
100%. So Pat, I'm going to wrap up with two things here. So one thing I have to ask before I wrap up and I ask my closing 3 questions. You are one of the sharpest public speakers I've ever seen in my life. You've done it for a long time now. Every time I saw you on stage, you had a great message. You made people laugh. You made people get inspired. You made people, cry. Like you're a person who really knows how to portray a message in front of a crowd of people, whether it's 10 people or 30,000 people. What are 3 tips you can give to somebody who's trying to polish that? Like if their business maybe requires them to get in front of crowds, or if they just want to break out of that shell and become a powerful speaker who can portray a powerful message to other people. I always say that communicators have the world in their palm of their hands. An effective communicator can get anything out of anybody and can get anybody to do anything. So what are 3 tips you can give to people who want to work on their communication skills or are looking to get into that realm?
Well, first of which, Nelson, great question. Appreciate you saying what you have. First of which, I look at Billy Graham, right? One of the greatest, if not, in the last 100 years, evangelists, right? and you study his story, he preached to alligators. He preached to a tree. He preached to a park bench. He preached to everything all the time, every day. So you got to have that obsession to be willing to do it all the time and not expect any your compensation is you're getting better. That is the compensation. So you've got to be willing to do it all the time, every day, as many times you can, and not be obsessed, but be what I'd like to call magnificently obsessed, right? That's where people are like, shut up. Every time I run into you, you want to talk about whatever that is for that person. Number 2 is study. How do I know Billy Graham? How do I know some of the greatest speakers of our life? Pastors, are some of the greatest speakers. If you listen to a pastor, they know how to package a message. They know how to take you up and bring you down and make you reflect and stop. And the third thing is what you said earlier. Who runs the world? Communicators. Do you think the CEO of Verizon's activating a phone today? Do you believe the president of the United States takes more vacations than anybody in our country? Why? Because they can communicate. They run countries. They run the military. They run religion. They run corporation. Everybody who runs things does one thing effectively. They're an effective communicator. And so when I realized that people that run it all are great communicators, that's what I decided to become. And fortunately, within the business that I got involved in, it is an opportunity for me to practice every single day, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 times a day, to the point that you become so comfortable that not only do you become comfortable, but then you start to refine. Like if you listen to great speakers, they know how to stop. Now, it's one thing to stop talking to one person. It's another thing to stop when you're in front of 10,000 people and have that moment of silence that is very awkward to you at the time when you do it, but it's impactful to the people you're doing it for, because you're giving them an opportunity to let them marinate on what you just said instead of just blowing into the next part of the conversation. And if you look at Jesus, his messages were simple. Follow me. Like if you think about the greatest communicator, he didn't use big words. He used very simple analogies and parables to have you understand things so he could communicate to everyone.
I love that. Yeah, it's more about who you are, not so much what you say, right? So
No question.
I can dig that. So Pat, thank you so much. This has been such a treat. It's reminded me so much of like my roots and where I come from, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the show.
It's an honor to be on the show.
Definitely. So Pat, closing 3 questions I ask everybody. First question would be, what inspires you?
It's a great question. I believe that you are never the finished product. So just the opportunity to work on you and to realize that if you're not all the time positive all day long, there's an opportunity for you to continue to work on yourself. So I believe that drive is an internal drive to be the example for other people. You can only influence based on your example.
100%.
That's the only way you can influence, by the example that you set.
100%. I remember recently I'm here at the company, and one of the guys that I manage, he did something and said something that I kind of wanted to address, and I had to stop myself and say, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to be the person or act in the way that I would want everyone around me to act. And then from there, I'm going to see the change in the people around me. Because if I lead by example and not just act like a boss, people are going to see, oh, man, he's here 7 days a week. All right. There's not much I can tell Nelson. There's not many excuses I can give him. So it's all about leading by example. 100%. I couldn't have said it any better myself. So second question, what's next for Pat?
So, I'm a father. That's I think the greatest mentorship opportunity we all get blessed with that do step into that direction. I believe that to me is the only way we can leave the world better than we found it, because they're the people that are the closest to you, that'll spend the most time with you, that'll give you an opportunity to pour everything you have into them.
Mm.
So I'm very grateful where I'm at. I love what I do, and I've done it for a very long time. And I've done other businesses. So I understand the challenges that go along with businesses. Sometimes people go, "Hey, I want businesses." What you got to realize, to make more, you got to give more.
Mm.
And I'm selfish with my time, right? I want to jet ski and spend time with my kids and do so. I don't necessarily want more because then I have to give more to get more. So I am really just in a great place that I thought I would be 20 years ago that I'm living now. So I'm living that dream that I thought about 20 years ago. That dream is here today. But I believe the platforms like yours and others just give us a bigger reach to people that will never get a chance to meet or never shake their head or never have a cup of coffee or do the things you and I had done in the past because this wasn't available, but now that it is. So I think more of this is just going to be a natural progression only because I know I have a lot to give and there's only so much that I can based on being in front of people on an individual level.
It's amazing. I love it. Yeah, I think every man should what was it? Every man should plant a tree, write a book, and have children.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the ultimate legacy, right? Having children,
Yeah.
and
Great advice.
and the impression you leave on them, and the lessons you leave behind, and the things you try to teach. So definitely. So last question, Pat. How do you want to be remembered?
Value add guy. He was always saw the bright side of it all, and I think that is a uh, lesson that took me time to understand that it's all going to work out in the end, and if it hasn't worked out yet, it's just not the end.
Mm.
And so and I'm sure you can look back in situations and issues and they led you to where you are now. And if those things didn't happen, although they might have looked negative, they were actually positive. So it was all positive. And I don't believe we can leave here without leaving here giving something to this earth to make it better. And I don't care who it is. I think, and even Anthony Robbins talks about having the bad dad that made him the great dad. So even the bad dad left the world better because he was the bad dad. Because then he inspired the son to be the good dad. So if it wasn't even negatively, and people go, what about Columbine? And yeah, that guy made 80 million people go home and hug their kids. Even in the worst situation, it still left everybody better because people went home and were like, I love you. I probably haven't said it. You went to school today and there's some kids that didn't come home and you did. And so even in pure evil, it leaves the world better than what it found it. So I want to leave the world better as we all naturally will, but I just want to be a little more conscious about leaving the world better as we all naturally will.
I love that. Pat, this has been an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to connect with you in this hour. I appreciate you coming on. How can people connect with you?
PatrickMazer.com. So just Patrick Mazer and put a .com at the end. And, I think I got my phone number in there and stuff. I mean, you know me, bro. I'm super accessible. What I find is, and you probably know that the more successful they are, the easier they are to get a hold of.
Yep. 100%.
If you want to find a hard person to get a hold of, try to get a broke person on the phone.
Oh my God. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Oh man, I saw a clip the other day on Instagram that said it was this guy that works with billionaires, and he says one of the top things I see amongst billionaires is that they answer right away. Whenever you text them, they answer right away, even if they don't call. Like if they can't answer the phone, hey, what's up? Are you okay? What's up? Do you need help? It's amazing. That's definitely a quality of a leader, is being accessible to your people. 100%.
Yeah. And look, you create a life that you get low value stuff done by other people. So I don't wash my clothes, cook my food, right? Cut my grass, wash my car. That's all stuff being done. You know what I mean? I'm right here. So focus on the main thing.
That's awesome. Pat, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Great for your time and great to be a part of your show and continued success, Nelson. Keep making a difference, brother. I'm praying for you and cheering you on.
Thank you, brother. Hopefully I'll be in Dallas one of these days, and we'll do one in person.
Listen, you text me before you get your bags. I'll pick you up.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it. Alrighty, guys. That's been another episode of the Montana Method Podcast. Special guest Patrick Mazer. Push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. See you on the next one.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.